Are we filming? Yes, we are. So this is a review. This is a review of, let me just show you. There we go. Let's zoom in. The Filofax of England, Berwick. Filofax Berwick of England. And this is important to note the distinction between Filofax of England, as it's written here, and Filofax made in England. As we know, and I'm sure this is the case with Filofax, although I can't be sure, when they changed this logo from Filofax made in England, which has a certain cachet, does it not, with any company, if it's made in England with English wages, then they want to shout that from the rooftops. But then sometimes you get companies that say a trade name of England to kind of gain some sort of credence or cachet about, it's suggesting an Englishness, even though almost certainly this has been made cheaply in the Far East. But let me zoom out. This is an interesting binder. It's in man-made materials, as you can see, and this one I just bought for a few pounds. I can't remember. I've had it in my collection for quite some time, but I haven't actually got round to reviewing it yet. So time is of the essence, as they say. But this is a very, very, very basic binder. In fact, when production ceased of this run, and it had a very short run, it only cost £20 back in 1994. This dates from 1993. As I say, very short run in the catalogues between 93 and 94, although there was a pocket version made in 1992 with the Berwick name. And the pocket one was the original pocket, where there were just 4 rings rather than the 6. It was a precursor to the pocket format that we see today, with the 6 rings closer together without this gap. So, the Filofax of England, Berwick. I mean, I'm labouring the point, but I don't mean to be. I mean, if I was manufacturing this and I ship manufacturing abroad, then I might sort of try and find some way of retaining an element of cachet. But this makes it a very, very interesting binder, because if I get this one out, where is it? Is it this one? Yeah, this one. It's an old battered Filofax Sherwood, and there we go. This one says made in England, and clearly it must have been, unless they're telling porkies. I'm sure they're not. I'm sure when a company say something's made in England, then that is the situation. So we got 2 binders here. We got my Filofax Sherwood, which I bought new in September 1993. Let's zoom out again. And we have a cheaper model, which is the using man-made materials. It's a lower spec, but still functional. And this was, I can't be sure how much it was in 1993, but it was £20 in 1994. In the catalogue anyway, and I'm using a catalogue on the Filofaxy website. There is a link in the video below. Very useful resource for this sort of information. They're very, very similar in size, as you can see, and it's even more prominent if I hold them like this with the width. They're basically identical. But let me just move this aside and tell you about this. One of the things that I'm very impressed with, given the fact I'm the owner of many, many vintage Filofaxes with the popper cover missing, This one, as you know, I like to buy filofaxes that have been used so that I can see how they have fared over time. And this one has quite a lot of wear, but the actual popper looks, apart from a few scratches, it looks perfectly okay. And so fair play to Filofax with this popper arrangement. I don't know whether they changed from a prim popper to another make. I'm just going to use my magnifying glass and have a look off camera so that my head doesn't stay in the way. And this says, okay, it says Kuang, Kuang, and then it says Huai, Huei. So I'm not familiar, to be honest. I mean, I've not really had a look at poppers so much, but this popper is made by. It's probably sourced in the Far East where this was made, and this is an interesting thing. This is one of the very, very first binders that were made outside the UK. And look at this. Now, I don't know whether this is stuck on, but my guess is that this is original. It says made in Taiwan, ROC, Republic of China. And it looks like it's well positioned. It looks like it's put on there by the manufacturers. I don't think many people would want to do this. I'm pretty sure that is original, but again, I can't be certain. Perhaps you could leave a comment if you know any more. So, shall we assume that this was made in Taiwan, and it was one of the very first binders that was made outside the UK? Let's try the rings. The rings feel, they're strong, they're firm. You wouldn't want to use this binder in a public library because people would be going shh and looking at you disapprovingly. But I'll tell you what, the rings are in perfect order and they're very, very solid. So they feel like they're going to last a lifetime, which is not the case with every set of rings, as you know from some of my previous reviews. So we've got good rings, and in case you hadn't spotted it, we have got the pièce de résistance, perfect flatability. And I suggest that the flatability is because of the manufacturing. I definitely feel that there is a gap here between what is clearly underneath this plastic material, this leather look material. There's a plastic stiffener, and there's a plastic stiffener here, but this employs a construction method under this where you've possibly got, I don't know. I mean, do you know what? I am tempted to strip this down because it only costs a few pounds. I am minded to do that in the interests of science. And I'm thinking on the hoof because I have a similar fascination with Sherwoods where the flatability appears to be built in. And I know from experience, because I bought this brand new 31 years ago nearly, that flatability is absolutely perfect from the day this was purchased. And this construction feels very, very similar. Do you know, I'm so tempted to strip that down. We'll see. We will see. But good rings, good flatability. This is a bit grubby, as you can see. I've not actually bothered cleaning this, and it's been stored for, I think I've had this a good couple of years, but it has some credit card slots, and it has a full-length pocket, not too tight, but not gusseted either. And then you've got another pocket here, which is much tighter, possibly because it's not being used, but you know, it is what it is. Let's have a look at the pen loop. Now, I'm pretty sure that this is a standard size pen loop, and it is. If it fits a Pilot V7 like this, it's a little bit looser, but that could well be because it's been used in anger, I'm sure. But we've also got wear on the popper. The popper works, but this is the construction. Let me zoom this again. So you got 2 layers of this man-made material sandwiched together with a stitch, and it's fine. It's absolutely fine. One thing I do not like about this is, but it is inevitable, when you have cheaper Filofaxes, you often get this arrangement where the actual there's no separate slots, so it saves on manufacturing costs. They just sew it into the hem, and I personally think that is a bit unsightly, but I can understand it because this is a cheap model. I think with any model where they sew it into the hem rather than a separate slot, they're just trying to save a bit of money, and you know, that's fair enough. There's plenty of models to choose from. If you look at a Sherwood, you will see, let me see if I can get these together like this. There we go. So this is a good comparison. So on the cheaper Berwick, it's very, very cheaply made. This design, not necessarily poor quality, but the design means that there is inevitably some element of a rise here, and there's a gap here. I can stick my pen in there, the tip, and again here, it's not an elegant design, is it? It's just a cheap design. And yet, if you look at the Sherwoods, which was made in the same year, you can see that there is a specific slot. It avoids sewing into the seam. The hem is there is no gap that you can put. You know, it's uniform. There's no untidiness, as you can see here. There's a specific slot, and it's sewn in really beautifully. The pen loop is more or less the same, and the only difference is that this is leather and this is man-made materials. But it's crucially, I'm illustrating the construction. A cheap way of attaching the pen loop to the binder. Obviously, for the user, forever and ever and ever until they pass away, or the binder passes away. You've got this unsightly rise in the hem here and here, and then of course, if you've got excuse me, if you have got some dividers, let me see if I can just close it like this. So you can see that, I mean, this is a good example. So when you close it, when you close the binder, you can clearly see that the pen loop, even if it's empty, will interfere with the dividers and the tabs. Let me just put a pen in here. So we just want to have the pen there, and you can see that it's not ideal. It's not ideal at all. Whereas if you compare it to what I call an outbounds pen loop, let's have a look. So we close it, and there is a little bit of overlap with the tabs, but not by much. It's touching, but you've got plenty of use. So there is a big advantage in paying extra and looking out for a binder that has an outbound. I mean, I do bang on about this. I do appreciate that bit, but it's close to my heart because I just think that, you know, for a few cents more at on the factory gate price, they could avoid this frustration that many people will probably buy a Filofax and not be cognizant of what I'm talking about. But as soon as they start using it and closing it, they will suddenly realise, oh my goodness, why didn't they use an outbound? Why did they do this? So it is what it is, but it is a budget. It's a budget binder, and that's all really I want to say about it. I mean, it's just why did I buy it? Why did I buy it? Well, I bought it because it's an example. It's an example of a Filofax binder, a sort of budget at the budget end of the spectrum, and they only actually had a few models, maybe 10 models back in 1993. This was a real transitional year for them, where some manufacturing was still going on. But I think they must have transferred it in stages, because this is at the cheap end, and the Sherwood here wasn't the most expensive one, but it was higher up the range, as it were. But I suspect that what they did was they started off. They probably thought, well, let's see how it goes. Let's keep manufacturing in the UK for a little while, and just make that smooth transition. Perhaps, I mean, I'm just guessing. So then they had some binders being manufactured in the UK, and some of the cheaper ones, like this Berwick, manufactured in. Possibly they chose Taiwan as the first manufacturing base, if you like. But clearly, some of these binders now, it's possibly. I mean, I'm just pontificating now and surmising that wages have gone up in China because people want cars. People want to live like the West. House values and wages are all going up. So, I think increasingly companies are searching round. They're desperately searching round for places that offer cheaper wages than what was hitherto available in the Republic of China or Taiwan. But I don't think you'd get these made in Taiwan now, because Taiwan is quite a high. I believe that the wages are quite high. It's a really developed country now. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know where. I mean, I have my guesses about where Filofaxes are made, the countries, but I suspect they're no longer made in Taiwan, if indeed this was made in Taiwan, because people in Taiwan want really, really, really good wages, and so things have moved on. It's a bit of a race to the bottom, I think, with manufacturing and wages, because inevitably, as we become more of a global entity, wages become a little bit more transparent. Who knows? But there we go. It is the Filofax Berwick, almost certainly not made in England, but Filofax at the time were very keen to cling to a certain cachet by putting Filofax of England. But I think that's quite common with many firms that outsource their manufacturing base abroad now and close their UK manufacturing operation. But anyway, thanks very much for watching. Rather a long 20-minute review. But thanks very much for watching, and goodbye.